So, let's start formally. Um, as always, bienvenidos a todos, ¿verdad? A Hipótesis Podcast. Creo que esto es el episodio 15, ¿verdad? Estamos siguiendo con la serie de los CrossFit Games, donde estamos entrevistando atletas de los CrossFit Games. En el día de hoy tenemos a Mayra Brandt con nosotros, which is the first athlete of the ones that I have interviewed that have gone to different games, to multiple games, which is so great. I think that other than Josue, which made it second place again this year on upper extremity adaptive, you are possibly the most successful athlete like on the games from Puerto Rico. So congrats on that.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah. So obviously, let's start. Um, when you were really young, you moved from Puerto Rico, right, to the States.
Yeah, I was just a baby.
Okay.
So we moved from Puerto Rico to, I live in South Florida, but we moved to Florida when I was really young.
Cool. And how was that? I mean, like Puerto Ricans are probably the only race in the world that it doesn't matter like where you are on the planet or where were you raised. If your grandparents or great grandparents are Puerto Ricans, your body what doesn't matter.
Yeah, definitely. I knew it from very early on, and I love it and embrace it, and I'm proud.
So glad. So you were in the States. What's your background? Because obviously you're a gymnast, we
Mhm.
can tell. But
Yeah.
other than that,
Yeah, no, pretty much from probably about 5 or 6 years old. I did gymnastics, and I quit when I was about 14 or 15. I randomly played soccer for like 2 years in high school just because my sister did it, and my friend at the time, I just tried out with her on the
yeah.
team, and then quickly realized that I don't like running. and and then I found like cheerleading and competitive cheerleading, which was a
Nice.
little bit more like gymnastics. So I've kind of done that ever since.
Yeah, it was like your wheelhouse, right? Right on your wheelhouse.
Hmm.
How was it like growing up being a gymnast? Because you're tall, like you're a big athlete, like in terms of what a gymnast should be. So how was that like transition? Like, was it from on your teenagers when you were a teenager that you suddenly grow up and it was like, oops, maybe this is not my sport? Was it the way, like, how was it
Yeah, I
that,
mean, I was pretty tall. Yeah, I was pretty tall for gymnastics pretty early. So, I mean, even just being, maybe in middle school already 5'3", 5'4" is
yeah,
like,
you're
I
big,
look
you're
like
big, you're big,
a monster next. Yeah.
you're big.
But I held my own for a while, and then honestly, it was more so, just the environment that I was in, just as I got older, it just wasn't, I don't know, healthy, I think. So I started to kind of realize that. And then once you get into like competitive cheerleading, they need strong girls, it's
Yeah.
good to be strong. And the fact that I humble a lot, just kind of made it super, kind of more my
And
style, I guess.
yeah. So you enjoy definitely possibly more being a cheerleader than a gymnast at that
Yeah,
point.
I mean, I definitely like the tumbling and athletic part of cheerleading a
Mhm.
little bit more than just like on the sidelines,
Yeah.
But I do like performing, the performing aspect of it is super exciting. And again, you just get to kind of showcase with how competitive cheerleading is. Nowadays, it's very athletic. It's really like the tumbling part of it is a huge part. And so yeah, so that was always my favorite part. It was, I mean, to me, it's like one big floor routine. You know what I mean? Like you have
Hmm.
music, you have,
Yeah.
the hardest part about it is that it's a team sport where gymnastics is very individual. So that's kind of the hardest. That was like the hardest, I guess, transition there, because as much as tumbling is individual, the whole thing, I
Yeah.
guess on the competition side of it is a team effort. So that's hard.
Yeah, exactly. Like when you're competing on your own, like everything falls on you and it's
Hmm.
kind of your fault if you
Yep.
messed up. But
Yep.
then competing as a team, like you have less pressure because
Yep.
not everything is on your hands, but on the same side, like if somebody mess up and you did your work, it's like, that dealing with that when there's so much variables when you're dealing with a team. But I
Yeah.
guess that, and also like the fact that you have to be a performer like
Yep.
while you're cheering because that's
Yeah.
your purpose. So
Yep.
that's great. Do you have like any injuries during those years as a cheerleader or as a gymnast?
Honestly, like just for some reason my knees. It's just something with I'm a knee person. So, in gymnastics, nothing was significant. I mean, little things here and there. But
Hmm.
when I cheered in college, was the first time I had was the first knee surgery I had. So,
Wow, what age?
so I was probably 20 or 21. Yeah, so it was more towards the end. That last year I was cheering. Yeah, that was the first knee surgery I had.
And that was your left knee or your right knee? Because I remember at the 18 games when we went with the Gerardo that we talked about one of your knees and then you messed up the other one during the
Right.
games that we can get into that in a little bit. So you had
Yeah.
the first surgery at 20 on which knee?
It was my right
Your right
knee.
knee? And was it a
Mhm.
meniscus or torn
Yeah, it was
ACL?
just a meniscus.
Just
I'm like, it's just a, yeah, but it was
yeah.
just, yes, it was a meniscus tear, and so it was just like a scope. Yeah.
Yeah. So they sort
Mhm.
of clean it and that's it. A little bit of
It-
rehab and you're good to
Yep.
go. And
Yeah.
you were able to perform after.
I did, yeah. It was a little closer to like our big, like in college you have like one big competition at the end of the year. So it was a little closer to that. So I did tumble. I was able to perform, but not to like my 100%. But yeah, I
Yeah.
was out there. Hmm.
Cool. And do you compete like at other high level competition like worlds or in cheer or some sort of nationals at gymnast like before the games or the regionals because you're also a regionals athlete back when CrossFit did that like or was it CrossFit like your first big stage competition?
When I was in gymnastics, my level, so I competed I was a level 10 gymnast.
Wow.
So that was there was a few competitions that were more on the regional level. Like I traveled quite a bit, so but and then in college, it just so happened that our nationals was right there in Daytona Beach. So for us, I mean,
Yeah,
it's drive
you
a
you
drive.
you did a 20-minute drive and that's it.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, it wasn't
that
too
that was
far.
the
So
worst. Back
yeah.
when we compete, I used to be a Olympic weightlifter, so always when we have the big competition against the other universities called the we always were like swearing to be on Mayagüez or Ponce, so we get to
Mhm.
travel and stay
Travel,
other
yeah.
place, some sort of nice hotel or whatever,
Yeah,
and spend the
yep.
yeah, that's nice. Okay, so you end up college and then you started coaching, right? But at cheerleading.
Yep. Yeah,
So you spent a few years.
I started coaching at a high school first, and then the kind of the world of competitive cheerleading, all-star cheerleading was becoming more and more popular where I was then able to open up like a gym strictly for
Wow.
cheerleading. Um, so that was, yeah, pretty young. I was early 20s there, and so I've been coaching ever since pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, so you have 20 years, more or less, plus
Easy.
doing
Yeah.
coaching. So
Yeah.
many athletes, right? What's your favorite part about being a coach like?
Well, cheerleading, obviously I love tumbling. I coach tumbling a lot, or that's what my favorite thing to do is. Right now I do a lot of like private lessons, personal training sessions with kids to like learn specific skills. So it's kind of cool that there's a goal there, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like I want to learn how to do my back handspring, and it's like you see the progression, they work so hard and then they actually get this skill. So that's kind of like my favorite thing to do is kind of have a goal in mind and build up, to like achieve that goal. And then it's like, okay, what's the next goal? That kind of thing. So, and again, it's the tumbling part of it. Even now, I like to do it. I like to teach it. Yeah, so just the tumbling part of it really. And then it's cool because CrossFit, there's a version of CrossFit I can bring into, tumbling, and vice versa. There's a version of tumbling that I can bring into CrossFit gymnastics. So, the gymnastic side of CrossFit obviously is my favorite thing to coach on the CrossFit side of it. But also just like, I really like to work with beginners. I mean, I really like to, whether it's a beginner into just regular fitness, a beginner into tumbling, like kids, or even a beginner into like competing in CrossFit, you know what I mean? Like just kind of that beginner stage. Like I like to kind of help, I don't know, kind of mold that. I don't know. I like to see the love of the sport, where people fall in love with the sport, right? They fall in love with trying to get, achieve a goal, that kind of thing. So that part of it is really cool too.
Yeah, I think that's the parts that we as a coach, like, we love the most, because you get to see somebody like a zero level and then get from here, even if it is like getting someone to the CrossFit Games, or just
Yep.
getting someone to do a full air squat or
Yep.
something like that.
Yep.
That simple, like, that's so great. How was it in your case, like when you first saw like a keeping pull up or butterfly pull up, like from being from a gymnastics perspective? Because on my case, obviously, when you do Olympic weightlifting, you just do one rep or two reps and stuff like that, and you try to do it as neat and perfect as possible. And then
Yep.
when I saw the first competition, I was traumatized. Like, what the fuck are these guys doing? Like, it was crazy. Was it the same to you, like seeing people doing keeping or butterfly or stuff like
Yeah.
that, or walking, doing handstand walks like a scorpion
Oh,
like that? Yeah.
yeah. So I've definitely had to learn to compromise. I think
Hmm.
I'm good at, I've had to work on my skills in compromise because it's it's tough. Not so much the kipping because I mean that's swinging on a bar, like we've done
Hmm.
that, plenty of times. So, and I understand the different variations. And you can do a really pretty kipping pull up, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's fine. That's fine. So yeah, it's the skill of compromise where I can again bring a little bit of the real, I don't want to say real gymnastics, I hate to say that, but the real gymnastics world into the CrossFit
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
And I there's some things that I will compromise, and then there's just some portions of it that I can't budge.
Yeah. The same here.
A
It's the
hollow
same
body
here.
is a hollow body. You
It,
gotta
it
find
is.
the
It
hollow
is.
body.
It is. And it's because, like, on our case, we're so used to, like, you know executing every movement perfectly,
Yep.
and at a perfect level, even when the kids are, I don't know, like until maybe 14 years old or so here, or not here in Puerto Rico, but in weightlifting, they don't get, it's a appreciation sport. So they don't win just by lifting weights.
Yeah.
They win by
Right.
technique. So it's the same
Yep.
on your sport. So
Mhm.
obviously we have that, critic eye on the technique, and then in
Yep.
CrossFit you can get away with shitty technique.
Yep. Yep.
And that was a shock, like, at first. So how did you get to the CrossFit world? Like, what was your introduction?
Yeah, so my friends, I was a teacher at the time. I was 30 years old. Okay, so fast forward, I'm 30, and I was a teacher at the time, and I got a phone call from a friend from high school. So it's been honestly probably 10 years since I had heard from this girl, right? So she asked me to do some lessons. She knew that I was, a gymnast, that I owned a gym, and da da da.
Hmm.
And she asked me to do some lessons to teach her how to do a handstand.
And you're like,
Um,
what? At
Yes,
30?
I'm like, girl, we're 30 years. Like, why do I do lessons with kids all the time, but never their like not their parents.
Yeah.
So at the time, I didn't do it with the parents. Now it's different. So I was just kind of like, why are we learning how to do a handstand? I don't understand. So she told me about CrossFit, and I spent the whole next like planning period like researching what CrossFit was because I wanted to teach her properly. Like I wanted to understand her world, so yeah, that's how I did it. So, I started with her, doing lessons, and then, I mean, it was like months later before I was like, okay, I'll try too, and I went into like the on-ramp class, at the gym that she was going to. And so I started that, and then it still even took me months after that. I'm like the worst
Mhm.
prospect ever because I was like, oh yeah, I'll come, and I never went. Took me a little while, and then I yeah started just doing classes, and I was again that member that like would do like one or two classes a week. I would rush in there, probably late, get that class, and then run out, not even talking to anybody, just because I started to fall in love with it, but the time was just so hard. There was just so many things going on. It was really hard to get there. So I tried my best, and tried to get there at least once or twice a week.
So were you hooked like at first, and or were you like a little bit skeptical like about the whole four time stuff and the
I
modalities? Because I bet that coming from gymnastics you probably have like some structure, right? And then ba- maybe now it's a little bit more sophisticated, but back then the workouts were like, let's just do crazy workouts so we can get people to puke and stuff like that. And then
yeah.
we have rhabdo and the
Yeah,
clown,
no.
and that was
No.
like a cult like crazy. Like the sole purpose of programming was to get people, done trash after
Yeah.
workout. So how was it for you? Like,
Well, I feel like I was super fortunate. I always had good coaches, so I never felt like it was like a like let's everybody like kill yourselves, to do
yeah,
it.
that's great. That's great.
Uh, Yeah. So, I never felt like that. I'm not quite sure that I would fall in love with the beat downs all the time. I'm not again, it's really hard for me to get into that, space of just that grind, that kind of thing. I'm like, that's the hardest part is like going from perfection to like going as fast as you can,
It
like
is.
that's for me, that's a really, I was like, oh, I thought I was going fast, and then it's like, no, you don't
Yeah.
have to perfectly, salute every time, that kind of thing. So, um, but yeah, no, I always, I just didn't have the time at the time. I don't think I really thought too much of it. I really liked the change in my body, by the style of workouts. I liked the challenge of every day of the classes. I liked that it was different all the time. I really, it just kept me intrigued and wanting more, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and it was kind of cool because I didn't start having the time to go every single day. It was only, again, a couple times a week. So I really left like wanting more and like trying to, find the time and make it work. So I think it just kind of like, I mean, yes, I was hooked, but I think in a different way than most people, because it just kind of, I just wanted more every time. So I was very excited every time going into the gym.
That's great. And what about like your coaches, like your first coach when he saw you, I don't know, like maybe doing handstand push-ups or pull-ups and stuff like that. Like seeing like it happens like when you're teaching a class for normal people and stuff, and then all of a sudden you have a former gymnast and they start
Hmm.
doing everything perfect. Like you can tell, you can
Yep.
tell.
Yep.
So how was in your case?
Well, it's funny because at the beginning, so the girl, Nicole, who brought me to the gym,
Hmm.
she would, she would be like, "Oh, okay, here's the bar, do it like a kipping, pull up or whatever," and I'm like, "Okay, show me." I'm more of like a visual. I'm like, "Okay,
Hmm.
show me," and then I would like go up and do it, and it was kind of like it was bad. Everyone's like, "What?" Like, they're like
How?
mad at
How?
me. Yes, they're like mad at me for like just kind of being able to do it. Um, so my uh so the people, like some people were like, oh, okay, try this, do this, that kind of thing. It was, some movements were super easy for me, and especially like a handstand. But in a class, like if you think about when you take classes and you only do classes once or twice a week,
Mhm.
and you kind of don't know too much about CrossFit. I didn't even know handstand walking was a thing, you know what I mean, like in CrossFit. um because when I was teaching Nicole, it was like we were doing mostly just going up into a handstand and like handstand push-ups, and we did do a little bit of handstand walking, but she wasn't there yet, so it was hard to, like, and then again, a regular class setting, handstand walking wasn't programmed like all the time,
Yeah.
so I didn't even know, that kind of stuff. It wasn't like I could highlight or show these skills because we didn't even do them in the class, so it took a while for um, certain movements where I was, could actually do it or perform it and then compete it. Like even then it's like, I'm always like, please let it be there, and things like that. But I had a hard time with certain skills that I'm, supposed to be good at. Like strict handstand push-ups took me a long time. Again, I
You're
can
big, you have lungs training,
yeah,
so
I'm a
it's
I can
always going to be
handstand.
hard for you. Yeah.
Exactly. And ring muscle ups were super hard. I mean, I'm like that weird athlete. Yeah, I jumped up and did a bar muscle up probably the first time I tried it. But a ring muscle up took me years. It took me years and years
Well,
and years to get a ring muscle up. So there's definitely still some elements of it because although I was a gymnast, we didn't like the male gymnasts do rings. Female gymnasts don't really
yeah,
do rings.
yeah.
So I never really had done too much on rings
Yeah, so
before. So
you were as amateur or rookie as the other people in the class because you never had that experience or that
yeah,
exposure to the rings
yes,
because like the best scenario for a girl is doing the parallettes, right? The
yeah.
yeah,
The uneven bars, yeah. So the bar part of it, pull ups and bar muscle ups, that part's easy. I grew up doing that, but not the rings.
exactly.
And the rings, it's almost again, it's in that break of the perfection mentality. Because if I do, if I try and do ring muscle up in a perfect hollow body kind of position,
It's
it's
crazy. It's
hard.
crazy. And
So
for reps,
until
even harder.
Right, right. So until I kind of learned that, oh wait, some movements I have to um, almost break position, right? I can't be perfect. Like loosen up that body position for
Yeah.
just a second, just a split second, and then there's certain movements that we can kind of hit back there. So it's like it's still that compromise, right? That like perfection attitude that like I had to adjust a lot, a lot.
But I feel you totally. Like for me, it was the touch and go part. For me, was
Hmm.
so hard. You know,
Yeah.
I was national champion at the time, so I have a really heavy snatch comparing like
Mhm.
to obviously to the people doing weightlifting and even more for the people doing CrossFit at the time. So, but then if we had to do Isabel, for example, it was 30 at 135, which was like less than I don't know, like 50% for me or so, maybe less. And
Yeah.
for me, it was hard because
Hmm.
I couldn't cycle it, but it was that
Yep.
part like I have to break form here
Yep.
or bend the
Yep.
arms before
Yep.
and this and that. So it took me for me like 2 years probably
Yep.
to really, really, really like nail that technique on touching goals.
Yes.
And even a little bit more for snatches. Like cleans, I
Yes.
got it first. Obviously, shoulder to her head was pretty easy because
Easy. Yep.
sometimes at the gym we did that kind of movements for explosiveness and stuff. But then I totally feel you. So let's fast forward a little bit. Um, I guess that you started maybe going a little bit more frequent to the gym,
Hmm.
and where when did you get like your first ride at the CrossFit Open, and how did it went for you?
Oh, I did the CrossFit Open. I was brand new to CrossFit. The coach at the time was teaching me how to snatch before it was like a snatch. I think it was like snatch. And,
What?
yes, it was like
What?
snatches and burpees, something like that. And he was like teaching me, like helping me how to snatch before I did the workout.
Was it the workout that has like snatches and burpees like going
Yes,
up with weight?
up in weight. Yes, it
Wow,
was like
yeah. That workout was
2012,
brutal.
maybe.
That workout was
Yes.
brutal.
But and I got to like I remember getting to like maybe 105, something like that, and that was like mind blowing. You know what I mean? It was just like it was crazy. It was crazy. So I did the open because our gym was pretty competitive and super fun, and everybody kind of did. Everyone did it. So I always did the open, and then just progressed more and more every year. It's funny because if you look at my my rankings for the past like 10 years. So at the time, I would try and just like cut it in half. So it was like the first year you're like,
Yeah,
50,000th place,
yeah.
and then the next year I was like 25,000th place. And then I was like, you know what I mean? Like every year I had seemed to like cut it in half, so that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool to see.
And now you're top of the world, like top five.
Yeah.
So that's crazy, and it's so great. How
Yeah.
was it for you? like doing snatches. Like for example, in my case, because of Olympic weightlifting, I tend to hyperextend the back.
Hmm.
But then on gymnastics
Yep.
is the contrary. So for
Yep.
example, when I do handstand walks, I need to really concentrate, or handstand push-ups and stuff like that. Was it the
Yeah.
same for you? Like because you're used to this position, but then when you're doing a snatch, for example, you're supposed to go like that. Like could you was it easy to you like do that transition, or you were used to, being in a hollow position even though you had
Yeah.
a
I mean,
barbell in your hands?
the body positions were pretty easy. I can hollow arch. I understand. I know my body position. The hardest thing for weightlifting for me was the toes. I was on my toes for everything, right? Because in gymnastics,
Yeah.
we bounce, right? We're bounding, bounding, bounding. So I was on my toes for everything. I would go forward, hop forward, toes, toes, toes. So I would focus so much on just being on my heels so much that my first shoes, I would have a hole in the toe, like where you'd
What?
flex. Yeah. So I would like flex my feet and I would get a hole in my shoes right where my toenail like would, because I would be pushing up so much. Yeah. To try and stay back on my heels. Cause
Wow.
that was definitely the hardest thing. I was always like, I was just forward. I was always on my toes. Yeah.
What's your snatch 1RM right now?
Um, I did at a competition recently. It was before the games, but it was in this year. This year, it was 190.
Nice. So you went
But
all
my,
over from 105 to 190. That's great. And
oh
what's
yeah, but my forever total, like this was before knee surgeries and whatever. It was still 195. Yeah,
great? So you're at 97%
yeah,
with two surgeries, right?
yeah.
That's
And I was,
great.
again, 41, 42, something like that. Yeah, it was this year.
Yeah,
It's definitely this year.
that's great. That's great. So um you did your first open, and obviously you had like that mentality of cutting in half and half and half. So you have that urge to compete, or at least
Oh
like
yeah.
to, to push yourself.
Hmm.
And your first regionals, back when we had regionals, you did it on
Yep.
teams, right?
Yep.
How was
I
that
was on a
experience,
team.
like having somebody putting your number right here and putting yourself through the chorus, and these other athletes and people maybe like 10 years younger than you? Like,
Yeah.
how was it?
So, for to put it in perspective, it was so fun. It was so exciting. I was on a team, and it was when regionals was in Atlanta, Georgia, so we got to travel. And the
Nice.
girl who brought me into CrossFit, she was on the same team as I was.
Wow, that's
So it
perfect. Yeah, it's
was,
a full
I mean,
circle moment right
I
there.
mean, it was, I mean, all I can say is we had the best time. Every workout was just kind of like, just all of it was such a bigger scale, everything was, um, there was definitely no pressure. There was definitely challenges in the workouts. We
Hmm.
had um, our own goals. And it was so much fun. We weren't like in the top anywhere either. So there was like really like no pressure. It was just
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of like,
Gain
it was,
experience and that's it, and get used to the competition floor, and maybe
mhm,
learn like when to look to the other guys, when to put pressure
yeah,
and stuff like that.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
And the
great.
people we were with were just awesome. Again, the whole experience, the team was awesome, and the fact that I got to be and compete with Nicole and it was really cool. It was really cool.
Great. And then right after you qualify for the regionals also, and then to the masters category, right when they open that
Yeah,
up.
2017 was the first year that they
Yeah.
opened 35, 39. So I
Yeah.
think I was like 38 or 37 or 38 at the time. That was the first year that we were able to qualify for the games, was 2017.
Great. And what was your plan? Like, which one did you prefer? Because there were some athletes that, like, I remember, I think that Bridges back then, like, he denied the invitation for the master competitions, and he
Mm.
tried for the individuals. Like, what was your perspective? Like, did you want to try both, or like to just use the regionals, like maybe as a experience type of thing to prepare
Yeah.
you to the other part for the masters? Like, how was it?
I always wanted to make regionals as an individual because even in 2016, I had told the guy that if I had made it individually, I was going to go individual. And I just missed it then. So I went team. And then 2017 was the same thing, but I didn't go I didn't go to regionals in 2017. It was 2018 that I had done. I had finally made it to regionals. I was like, again, 38 years old, 39 years old.
Yeah.
I'd finally made it to regionals, and yeah, so that was the year. Um, I didn't want to make the games ever. I don't feel like I ever was like, I want to go for the games as an individual. I just think at that point in time, I was like, I'm a lot older, and I don't think it ever crossed my mind. And it definitely didn't cross my when at one of the games, I forgot. I think I told this story before. The marathon row that the individuals had to do. I
Yeah,
don't remember.
that was on your year, 2018 when we went.
Okay,
Yeah,
so so I just remember that day where this is, I know I'm fast forwarding, but I was at the games and I was getting ready to leave because I was done for the day, right? And I'm
yeah.
like, oh, exhausted. I can't wait to go back to the hotel, blah, blah, blah. So, it's what, maybe, I don't know, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock.
Hmm.
And the individuals were walking in to
In
the
to a
competition
marathon.
to
Yeah,
do the marathon with like a 4 hour, time cap or whatever it was. And I remember thinking in that moment, like, I don't have to do regionals anymore.
yeah, and that
I
day was
love
so
being a
brutal.
master.
That day was so
Yes,
brutal for them. I
yes,
remember, like, obviously, since we have Geraldo competing, we have like seats on the stadium, and I remember that we finished the day just like you because we were
yep,
on the age group, and then they were like, "Let's go and see the row." I was like, "I'm trash. I don't know about you. You should go to
yes,
rest. I have no energy, and I'm
yeah,
not willing to see these guys like fucking row for 4 hours and
yep,
that's it. Like
yep,
there's nothing interesting to see." But that
mm-hmm,
day was brutal
yep,
even for the younger guys. I remember that
yep.
Noah Olsen posted like he lost like 10 or 12 pounds. That was
Whew,
crazy on that event only. So
crazy. Yeah,
I can't imagine like having that. So on that year, we all have a big surprise because we all thought that Geraldo was the only one from Puerto Rico, and
mm-hmm,
then all of the sudden, when they started the ceremony, we have two more, which was you and Ida, and we were
mm-hmm,
so glad. At first we
yeah,
were confused. We were, who are those two girls over there? And then
yeah,
it was like, oh my God, we have three people, so it
yeah,
was way better. How was that feeling for you? Like, because I remember that when we were signing in, like they asked on which country you were born, stuff like that, but we didn't knew about the ceremony at all. So when they gave Gerardo the uniform and we saw
yeah,
the flag on the back, I started crying like a little baby.
yes,
How
yes.
was that feeling for you?
That I think was the same for me because we didn't know about the ceremony and they you write where you're born, so I put where I was
Mhm.
born. So when I got the jacket also and I had the Puerto Rican flag on the back, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And then when we checked in for the parade or whatever the ceremony, it was either my name was on both lists or my name was on one, but I forgot how it
Mhm.
went. All I know is they said, well, you can go wherever you want, whichever, pretty much you can, go wherever you want. Um, so I was like, I'm gonna go over there.
Nice.
There was like 1,000 people over here, and I was like, well, where is it? And it's kind of down the way. So it was so cool. It was, I mean, again, that is the only thing that just kind of revives me from this like hole I was kind of in because I was so injured and so hurt, and I almost didn't even go to the ceremonies because I was like, I'm just gonna rest, like take care
Yeah,
of my
because
knee.
that was on our second day. Because the first
Yep,
day we had the obstacle course, and then we
yep.
have the
The
shoulder to
handstand
overhead, I
walk.
think, and the handstand wall with the
Yeah,
ramp and the
yeah,
snatches,
yes.
and then you had your injury with your
Mhm.
right knee, right?
Yep.
And
Hmm.
just before the games, you had a injury
Yes.
on your
On my
left
chest.
knee,
Yeah, yeah.
so you were pretty bad. Like,
I was I just remember the whole, because it was the snatch double under workout that my right knee, it was on double, I was jumping and it just like exploded. So that night, I mean, it was just like, I mean, I don't think I've cried so much in my entire life, and I was like, I don't know what to do. And so I was just trying to like take care of my knee, and I almost didn't go, but I'm
and
so
it's
happy.
crazy because you were working so hard for all these years, and then you
Oh yeah.
finally got there. and you were like surviving a previous
Yes.
injury, and then all of a sudden having the other knee blowing up on the
Yeah.
workout, like on the
Yeah.
spot. Did the medical staff notice, or
So I went to the medical staff and I started because I was kind of like limping off the stage kind of. So I went to them and they start to like, assess you, like evaluate
yeah?
your situation. And I just remember thinking at a certain point, like the questioning kind of turned into, it was
Are
like,
you
oh,
able to
wait.
compete or so?
Yes,
Yeah,
I said it wasn't, it was like, oh, wait, they might tell me that I can't compete. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I forgot what type of questioning it was that it was like, um, and then I was like, okay, I'm fine. I'll just go, I'll ice it, I'm
And then
fine.
trying to suck it up and walk upright.
Yes, yes, I really did kind of feel like, oh wait, I think they can tell me that I'm not allowed to compete, So that was that. Yes, I did see them briefly, and then they just kind of gave me some options, and just kind of evaluating. Um, so yeah, and then thankfully that year I had my massage therapist. He was there at the competition
Wow,
with me that
that's
year.
great.
So yeah, so got a
He had
lot of
work
work
to do,
done.
a lot of work to do.
He had a lot of work to do. Maybe a little more like emotionally than
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
physically.
I know.
The poor guy. But yes, yes, he had a lot of work to do.
And we were lucky that year because we had that awkward rest day after the
Yeah,
first day, and
yeah,
so that definitely
yeah. That
help
helped.
help
Yeah,
you out, and then you get
yeah.
all that electricity and all that people cheering for you,
It,
and then
it
you're
was amazing.
holding the flag.
Yeah. It was amazing. That's I'm telling you, that ceremony really kind of revived a lot. So it was awesome. Very cool.
Yeah, it was so awesome. Those that moment is like one of the like the happiest moments, because as a as an athlete, like you always want to represent your country and stuff, but
Mhm.
then like getting another your athlete, over there, and seeing him holding the flag, and everything was just, it was great. Like I didn't care about what happened for the rest of the
Yeah,
weekend. Like
right. Yeah.
it doesn't matter. So I remember those games obviously a lot because we were there. Like which was your favorite event? Obviously, I know that it's kind of hard because you were having a hard time during the whole
Yeah.
event. But do you have like one event that you like more than the other ones?
Well, the whole first day was awesome, and not only because I wasn't really injured at the time, but
So
it was
dynamic,
all
right? It
it
was so
was I mean
dynamic
the
and different.
obstacle course, it's different and fun, you know what I mean? It
Yeah,
wasn't like CrossFit workout. It was so different. So the obstacle course was awesome. Of course, the handstand walking workout, I always
right.
think is a good
Easy.
time. And then I really like snatches too. So that was the heavy snatch. It was a little bit of a ladder, for the snatches. So that was the first.
Exactly. You were competing against Sam Briggs, right, that
Yeah,
year.
the year.
So
Yeah.
you get to pull a win over here on the handstand walk, right, on that event,
The handstand walk and the obstacle
and
course
and the
and the
obstacle
snatches.
course.
That's all
Nice.
I got. That's all I
That
got
you
to
were
do.
like, that's it, that's it.
Yeah. That is all I have on Sam Briggs is handstand walking and heavy snatches. That's it. That's it. That's it.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah.
great. Like, I mean, obviously you had that thought about, I don't want to do regionals no more, but then having an athlete like her, like going up to the
Yeah.
Masters and then getting yourself against her, so you can,
Hmm.
see where you're at,
Yep.
and maybe what you need to work on for the next
Hmm.
years and stuff. And obviously, you're different athletes, so you're going to have a wheelhouse and she's going to have
Yep.
a her wheelhouse.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's great. Well, that event, that first day, was so dynamic and different that, like, even the playing field a little bit, because on the obstacle course it was just like, run and that's it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
everyone get to try it once or twice. I don't know about you guys, like, but just the day before, you get to try it once or twice,
I
the
don't
obstacle
remember.
course?
I think
Just
the
once?
the lucky thing is I got to do it the year before. So it was the same obstacles,
Hmm.
but pieced
Yeah,
pieced
pace
different.
different. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I had gotten, a chance the year before to know what obstacle to do certain things and, that kind of thing. But yeah, we did practice the day before. I think it was the day before or maybe even earlier that day. I don't even remember. But yeah, we did get to practice maybe once or twice. Yeah.
What about and what about like have you ever repeat a workout from the games like to reassess or see where you at or progress
Yeah,
and stuff like that?
I've retested. I don't think too much into it though because the circumstances are so
Yeah,
different. You
it's
know what I
different.
mean? Like it's different and again for 2018 that was just different in all different
Yeah,
types of situations. But I think yes I do, and I feel like if I'm anywhere close, like if I didn't beat it, if I'm anywhere close, I think I'm like on the right track because when you get there it's just so different. It's different in the gym doing it by myself versus being at the CrossFit Games, doing it with the best in the world, um or doing it on day 4, and it's the last workout, that kind of thing. So I do retest, or I have retested, but I don't think too much into it. I remember retesting one this year and I was like 20 seconds off and I was like, oh, that's pretty good. Because I was like, I was younger then, like just there's just
yeah.
a
There's
whole
so
lot.
many variables that you have to get into
So
that. It's not only like your actual score, but there's a
yeah,
whole
yep,
other things that are supposed to be in there. But that's
yeah,
great because we don't do it that often either, but there's like maybe one workout or two that we always like kind of repeat to see where we at.
yep, yep.
And always is like the workout that Gerardo was at his worst, like
Mm-hmm.
the so because obviously if he was last place on a workout with burpees, we're going to do a lot of burpees and then
Of course.
reassess that and see
Exactly.
where he's at, which brings me to my other question. So what about your programming? Do you have a coach? Do you have somebody in charge of that?
Yeah, so I follow Training Think Tank.
Okay.
Kyle Ruth is my coach from Training Think Tank. Pretty much half the year, I follow their online compete program,
Okay.
um, and then when I get a little more into the higher level competitions, I will have him individually program for me. And he's been my coach now for like, oh my gosh, like probably 4 or 5 years. So he knows me very well.
Yeah, that's great. And I guess that obviously after the surgeries and the injuries and stuff, you need that attention
Yep.
so you can take care of your knees and still
Yep.
be able to compete at a high level.
Yeah, I mean, right
Other
after my
Yeah,
surgeries, I didn't have a coach. I wanted to just like my physical therapist was my coach. Like I just wanted to really take the rehabs seriously, and I would obviously stay in shape myself in the gym, do all my PT, and I didn't have Kyle or until like I was almost fully recovered, I guess you could
recovered.
say. Yeah. Cause it was funny because my PT at the time, he would say something like, okay, with squatting weight, right? He wasn't a CrossFitter, but, he would say, okay, you can do 50%, you know, squatting. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, well, my all-time PR is like, 300 pounds. I was like, okay, so I can do 150 pounds. And he was like, are you crazy?
No,
He's
no.
like, no. And I was like, you told me 50%. So it was definitely, interesting, working with only a PT because they don't quite understand the CrossFit way.
Yeah, yeah,
So
it's really different. Like when you get to know somebody from that part of the spectrum of fitness, like they think pretty different. For
yes,
example, like they don't like sometimes to squat below parallel or
yes,
stuff like that, and you're like, we all, I'm squatting
yes.
below like every other day. It doesn't matter, single
Well,
leg, whatever.
yeah, he is actually again, I'm so fortunate. He is one of my cheer coaches at the gym. He's a PT also, and so
So you have
he
him
knew right away.
right on your
Yeah,
headquarters.
I
So
mean,
yeah,
yeah, anytime I kind of, need him, he's kind of right there. But I mean, he knows me too, and he knows that it's like don't tell me that I can't do A, B, and C, because I'm not going to listen to you. I will tumble. I
Hmm.
will squat below parallel. I will. So like, give me the doctor that's going to help me do that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And he referred the knee doctor to me. Kind of.
There we go. So sorry, I lost connection there for a second.
That's okay. That's okay.
So you were telling me you have him right there, and you have the, get you have him get you to a doctor, so you can, do your stuff and continue your training
Yeah.
at high level.
Yeah. Because I was like, I still want to compete, and I'm still going to tumble, for fun, and I'm still going to, I have the squat below parallel. So it was kind of one of those like, I need someone to support. I need a doctor that's going to support me, and the PT obviously supported me, and
Yeah.
Coach Kyle obviously supports me. So yeah, it was definitely interesting working with a regular PT for a while.
So sorry. There we at.
That was okay.
So how, in your case, obviously, again from gymnast side of the spectrum, like how's been dealing with CrossFit changes year and year, because obviously we had regionals and then we didn't, and then we have super regionals, and then it was like through your country and all that different stuff. Like, how is it for you? Obviously there are even some surprises. Some years they change standards all of a sudden, like
Yeah.
right before the workout. Actually, you have a situation right with with GHD sit-ups the other year. So
Yeah.
how's that, like, dealing with that?
I just right now there's been so many changes that I just kind of sit here. I feel like I just sit and wait,
Hmm.
wait for the new rules, and then just kind of, assess from there. I plan even now. I'm kind of like, okay, I plan to, yeah, like I'm gonna go for the games again next year. I don't know what the rules are gonna say. Is it gonna be 10 of us? Is it gonna be 20 of us? Are we gonna
Yeah.
compete online? Are we gonna have to travel to compete? I don't know. So like in this moment, I can say, yeah, we're going for the games again, but I don't know the structure of the season yet. So it's just kind of, I just wait for that, and then just,
Yeah,
take
so
it as it goes.
you're already used to it, right? Like,
Yep. Yeah. Oh yeah. That emotional roller coaster for masters of the 20 people versus the 10 people, then back to 20 people, and now back
and
to
then
10
back to
people.
10.
It's 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 a lot.
And
It's a lot.
it's brutal, because if you're like on the bottom half, like from 11 all the way to 20, like you're in danger. Like, maybe
Yes.
not the 11, the 12, or the 13, but if you're
Hmm.
18, your chances are almost zero, because all
Yes.
of the sudden there's half people over there.
Yeah. And for me, I'm not like the online competition. I'm not good at online stuff. It's just it's difficult for
It's
me.
weird.
So
It's weird. Like, for the standards, the actual rep no rep stuff,
yeah.
because obviously you're being judged by a friend or a colleague or
Hmm.
something, so
Yeah.
maybe he's not as rigorous as a
Yep.
true
Yeah.
judge at a competition event. And then sometimes they're pretty weird, or ambiguous on how everything's supposed to go. I
Yeah.
think that this year's quarterfinals was a little bit more specific in terms of,
Hmm.
your barbell is supposed to be here,
Yeah.
then they're supposed to be like 9 feet apart from here to
Yeah.
here. But like 5 years ago, that stuff didn't happen. I
No.
remember seeing
Right.
Sarah, for example, on the first workout, no, the second workout of the Open, that they had, I think, rower, toes to wars, and other stuff, and she did the toes to war and then
Yeah.
land over the rower. And in her case, in her gym she couldn't
Yeah.
do that, but then maybe if your gym is not like that, or
Yeah.
as or having that much space and stuff, so the playing field is not even for everyone. So
Right.
those were the stuff that affect the competition. So definitely being able to compete, at the Wadapalooza or competitions
Hmm.
like that, is, I think, that is a better option than doing
Yeah.
online qualifiers by far.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so this year when it was only 10, I was like, oh man, this is just, it's so hard. Every
It's
year that I've
nuts.
qualified, I've been like 18th. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
because
um,
as the competition gets harder, you rank better
yes. Yeah.
yeah.
So this year I went up to Training Think Tank in Georgia for the qualifiers. So I kind of made it more of a competition
Yeah,
style for me, because I knew that was, for me, I think that's like the only way it's going to happen, because I put myself in the best, I guess, again, competition style
yeah,
environment.
yeah.
Can.
That's a
So,
scenario. That's a scenario that you want. So you
yeah.
can be, as accurate as
Yep.
possible, and like competitive wise, you want to be the other guy or the
Yep.
other gal. So you
Yep.
want to push. It's not the
Yeah.
same doing it at your gym or at your house.
Yeah.
Never,
Yeah.
never at all. So how was this game sedition like being programmed by another person? Like for example, on the case of the individuals, we see things that maybe being my first year, for example, that maybe I wouldn't dare to do because obviously it's my first year. But then he dared to do those
Mm.
things, and it went great, like the parallels and the sandbags and
Yep.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, did you
I mean,
feel the difference between the two programmers? Like,
yeah, I mean, we got to do the pegboard for the first time.
yeah,
We did, yeah, the parallettes, a little different than the individuals, but we got to do the parallettes there. And even, yeah, sandbag, the same, farmer's carry, and even the swim, all of it kind of, I mean, felt very, I don't know, fresh. I mean, it's been 4 years since I've been there, and I
hmm,
know that the programming for masters has been a little, up and down. I feel like
yeah,
one year, think one year I think it was 2019, where they only took 10. The first year they only took 10, and that was the countries thing and everything. That I think it was a little, the programming, I feel like people were talking about how they just kind of shooed masters off to the side kind of
yeah.
situation. So I was happy. Yeah, I think for me, programming, I'm actually, the programming this year for me personally was not good, right?
Hmm.
Like, we can say it, I gymnastics is my thing. Like, we didn't do any bar muscle ups, any chest bar, any toes bar, and
Yeah,
we
so
got to
so
do,
so the stuff that is on your wheelhouse, you did not
yes,
get to do them.
nothing, 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 nothing. So the workouts for me personally there was nothing heavy, no heavy barbell.
Hmm.
The workouts for me were just very neutral. When I saw all the workouts, I was like, oh boy, like it was all very neutral. Nothing was in my wheelhouse. So yeah, it was but programming in general, I thought it was cool. Again, I got to do the pegboard for the first time, the sandbag. Uh,
Have you ever
Workout
practiced
with
it
the,
before, like the pep war?
yeah, so
Yeah,
I don't have one at my gym, and I train once a week with a guy who went to the games last year, and he has a pegboard at his gym. So once a week, so probably like when everybody was talking about the new implements, when Boz was going on all the podcasts and saying, oh, there's going
yeah,
to be this, and people are kind of, and I was like, oh man, like what's something that the individuals have done but we haven't done?
yeah. So obviously the
So
peg was
I
around there.
I think I was like, I think it's the pegboard. And so I would do a few at his gym every time I went there, because I was like, I just
Cool.
don't want to, be surprised. And I
Yeah.
don't know, because I can do one, that doesn't mean I can do, five in a row,
Yeah. With
or
intensity or
compete.
during a workout or maybe at
Exactly.
last day or yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I was really happy that we had done it. It was only a couple weeks, but yes, I was really happy that I had done it there. So.
When you're practicing for the games and you're hitting your swimming practices, do you go like how different is it swimming like in South Florida
Yeah.
versus on a lake in Madison?
Yeah. The beach is definitely, when we do open water, it's the beach, right? And it's just unpredictable. I mean, of course, every time we schedule to go to the beach, there's like a thunderstorm coming in, and the waves are like,
Yeah,
so
this big.
big. And I mean, I bring people with me all the time, because you just never know,
You don't
and
know,
then
you don't know.
yeah, yeah. So I practice mostly in a pool. But then when we just did a few open water touches,
Yeah. To get
just to
used to it.
practice.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's way different out there anyway, so it
No,
doesn't
and in
matter.
Madison is madness. Not only because the lake and you can't see the bottom and it feels like muddy and stuff, but
Mhm.
that's the only event that the whole category, men and women, are thrown to the water at the same time.
That's the
So
problem.
so that's the
Yeah.
problem. I remember talking about that to Geraldo back in 2018, and he even practiced with triathletes for,
Yep.
to get that feeling like getting in
Yep.
open water with a lot of people like right next to you.
Yep. Yep.
But he ended up like 20, but
Yep.
he was the last one, and it took forever for him. Like he took so long that you guys were on the water already, like on the first doing the
Yep.
first turn, and he was
Mhm.
still on the water.
Wow.
He had a panic attack and stuff.
Yeah. Same.
Uh, and
Same.
you
Same.
had one.
Hmm.
So
Yep.
actually, when he got out, he was holding. So I was like, this guy just injured himself, but his swimsuit was torn apart, like
Oh my God.
torn apart totally. So I totally get being
Hmm.
panicked in the
Yep.
water.
Yep.
So how was it like when you had that redemption the next year? Swimming all over again, having knowing now that you're going to be thrown to the water with all these people. Like, what's the mindset getting into that event?
Well, I never had the redemption. I got dead last in 2018. So
But you didn't have the
I had
panic attack, right?
another. No, I did. In both of them, I
In
did.
both.
Just, but in 2018, I knew how to manage it. That was the only thing. 2017, it was unexpected and I didn't know what was going on. And 2018, I was like, damn it, it's happening again.
Yeah.
So I knew how to just kind of manage it. I still didn't. So, and I worked so hard. Oh, that was so frustrating. I trained so hard for swimming and
Hmm.
it just,
Yeah.
but that's why I do like we have a competition here in Florida. It's called Bacon Beat Down. It's in Daytona. Oh, now it's called something else. But and there's always a beach swim. Wadapalooza. There's always a
Hmm.
swim in the bay. So I try and practice, and I do very well in those swims. So I knew my swimming was getting better. I'm more comfortable in the water. Um, it's just those yeah, when people are on like swimming on top of you and it's just full like
Yeah, it's crazy. It's
chaos.
crazy. It's
It's
crazy.
really that's definitely the hard part. So I'm like proud of my swimming every time. Again, Wadapalooza, I did really well this year in the swim part of it.
Overall, you did well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Crazy.
I mean, I'm not a runner, so it was kind of one of those like you better get a head start because they're gonna catch you on this run.
Yeah.
So yeah, but just it's not so much the open water. I'm fine. Not I'm learning how to like sight. The even the waves was fine that day. The
Mhm.
last day we went, the waves were insane, and it wasn't I wasn't uncomfortable. I wasn't uncomfortable. So it's just little things here and there. But the swim this year was pretty cool, like completely different. In the pool. Um, so that was cool. That was cool to
Yeah.
finally not get last place in a swim workout.
Yeah, I know. What about
Yeah.
talking about the Wadapalooza, like competing there? Obviously, the games are like a little bit more rigorous in terms
Yep.
of everything. Like you have to
Mhm.
be at this
Yep.
time right here. You
Mhm.
need to sign when you're going out, and yada
Yep.
yada yada. Like, which one do you like the most? Do you like more the Wadapalooza, or do you like more the games? Like, if you had like to choose, like,
No, I'm definitely choosing the games.
great,
Yeah. Wadapalooza, I think we've come to our end of Wadapalooza here, at least personally for me. Um, so yeah, games is the ultimate goal of the year. And then this year, I just accepted my invite to do Legends, which is the
nice.
Masters competition. And this year it's in Cookville at Mayhem. So that'll be pretty interesting to see how that works, how that run, how the competition runs. So yeah.
Yeah, I know. Like, when people ask me, since we've been on both, like, I go like from a coaches or athletes perspective, probably the games are way better because
Yep.
are more structured, like
Yep.
on everything. But
Mhm.
then, like, for a spectator, well, maybe the Wadapalooza because you get to, you see the athletes like walking
Yeah.
around and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then again, like sometimes stuff happens and like they don't have a plan B. Like I
Yeah.
remember a few years ago, like last year, they suspended like two events
Yeah.
and there was no plan B like at all.
No.
So if you were on the fight for the podium or like defending one place against other people, and all of a sudden the event that was on your wheelhouse got suspended, your chances just go fade away,
That was exactly
because of
me.
that.
That's exactly
And
what
that's
happened
what
to me.
happened. And
Mhm.
then in your case, you even got to the point and you didn't even know because they were
Yeah.
paying so much attention to the elites and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And so
Yeah. I
I
just think that
definitely
they
saw
just,
that last year. Like they were
yeah, they just
definitely
have too much.
prioritizing, yeah,
Yeah.
prioritizing a lot more the elites instead of you guys.
Yeah, and not just us, like the scale divisions, the
Yeah,
teenagers, the intermediate, the art, you know what I mean? It was and then this year I haven't even looked, but I hear this year they're even cutting it now. So they're cutting our divisions even more. I think there's only like 5 or 10 in the
yeah.
masters, to compete. So it just, to me, it's not, I live right here and I don't, I just, it's just not.
Yeah, with 5 people, it's, I don't know. It's like, why would you even bother? Like, if you have
Yeah.
one bad event, you're out
Well,
instantly.
and 5 people, it's not, to me, if it's five, if that's true, again, I haven't even looked at
Mhm.
the competition, but I mean, that's just a throwdown with your friends. That's not a,
Yeah, it
that's not
is. It
a
is.
competition, because like you said, I mean, you're gonna kind of know it's either that or everything's just so cutthroat, like everything, that it's just, it's tough. It's tough. It's definitely tough. And then, for Legends, I think they're taking like 30 people, so I'm like, okay, that's more like a
Yeah,
competition. And for me, I did Legends a couple years ago. Also for the games, I mean, it's the best in the world.
yeah.
There might have only been 10 of us, but 5 of us were from different parts of the
Different
world.
places. Yeah,
Yeah, there's 3 girls. I mean, they did not speak English. You know what I mean? Like this is, I mean, it's definitely a world competition. And Legends was cool when I went a couple years ago, because I live on the East Coast, and when I went out there to compete, there was a bunch of girls from like California and Arizona, and it's like I don't know these, I've never competed against these
yeah,
girls. I don't know these girls, so it's cool to meet people from a different part of the country. So because when you
yeah.
do
And
local
there's that,
competition,
that
really like
that
people.
feeling of mystery that you don't know, like
Yeah,
if she's good at lifting or
yeah,
good at, if she's a grinder, like what kind of
hmm,
athlete they are. And
yeah,
how's the locker room like for you guys? Like with Gerardo and the teenagers, they're pals, like they're best
yeah,
friends
yeah.
during the whole weekend. But I don't know, like in your case, since you're adults and stuff, like if you make friends over there of or if there's tension between you guys like during the whole
No,
weekend, like how does it how does it work with you guys?
I don't think that I mean, there's tension in the form of your focus when it's time to focus on
Hmm.
competing, but definitely not tension in like
Yeah,
talking
there's
to
no
everybody.
drama. There's no drama at all.
No, 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 no. Everyone's super cool. And I mean, again, there's certain girls I feel bad because they don't even speak English. So, there are a few that are kind of on the outside. So that's a little
Hmm.
hard to communicate. But, um, for the most part, no. I mean, I enjoy kind of getting to know these girls or, talking to them. Some people, again, you can tell are it's just, I think how you process competition. Are you a nervous, quiet competitor, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
So, but it's not tension. I don't think it's tension in the fact of, I mean, obviously when we get on the floor, we want to beat each other. That's not, that's still, it's competitive, but
yeah, it is what
it's
it is.
not, it's really, it's pretty cool backstage. Yeah.
That's great. So
Hmm.
your next step is going to that event, Legends at Mayhem,
Hmm.
and then you're trying for the Open and all the qualifying
Yeah.
process all over again.
Yeah.
Cool.
Let's do
Have
it again.
Great, great. Have you ever
Yeah.
heard about the International Functional Fitness Federation?
Yes, I think so. I haven't followed it in a little bit, so I'm not quite sure what the updated. I know a lot was going on during like, the COVID situation, so I haven't followed up or updated recently.
I'll probably put you in contact with the president of Puerto Rico's delegation. Actually, right, on Saturday, they're doing like the competition to select the team of masters because this year's worlds are in Aruba. They're going to do that competition in Aruba like around November, and
Very
Obviously,
cool.
you're from here, you live over there,
Yeah.
but you're as Boricua as it gets. So it will be great. Like maybe not this year's because calendar or something, but it will be great to see you like representing the flag all over again.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
That would
And
be
this year, I
awesome.
will say, I was so disappointed that I couldn't do that. They didn't have Puerto Rico as like as a country in the.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
when we were lining up for the opening ceremonies, so we had just done, I think we had just done an event, and then they just kind of rushed us over to, the next spot. So everyone was all together, and so I just kind of like start walking up the line because I'm like trying to see the countries, and I was like, "Is there a Puerto Rico this year?" And they were like, "No," because it was
yeah,
based off of citizenship rather
yeah,
than. So one girl I asked, she's like, I would just suggest emailing CrossFit to see if, they can do that again in the future, because I think it would be pretty awesome. But yeah, there was nothing this year,
yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah, I think that the very first year, I think that it was like maybe 2 years ago, just before the pandemic, that they switched it to the citizenship.
Yeah.
There was a movement here in Puerto Rico because obviously, since we have the U.S. citizenship, it's going to be really hard to see like a Puerto Rican like
Yeah.
on a regular individual, RX type of thing over there, and obviously see the flag, which is the most important part for me
Yeah.
because we're going to always have people like you, people like also on the adaptive, maybe a teenager, maybe another master like Sadia, but like having you guys work out with the US flag is just for me it hurts. It hurts.
Mhm.
So I'm definitely see like what we can do
Yeah.
on that regard, and then put you in contact with the federation here to see if you can compete all over again
Yeah.
for
Right.
us. That would be
Yeah.
great.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I have such a awesome time. Thank you for your time,
Yeah. No
and
problem.
really happy to see you again. The Legends competition is it going to be when?
So Legends is in December.
December.
It's in December. Yeah.
Cool.
So, yeah, coming off of this games this year, um, the qualifier is going on right now. But I was able to get an invite because they invited the people who went to the games. So,
Yeah.
thankfully, I can take a little break.
Yeah, yeah,
I
definitely.
don't
Because
have to.
coming off the games and then starting a
And then
whole
doing it.
new. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. So, but yes, I did finally. I had to do that this week. I finally accepted the invitation. So yeah. So we're planning to do that in December.
Perfect. Best of wishes. Best
Yes.
of luck
Thank you.
and stay healthy. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you.